Hello, Warren.
Hello, Nat.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
I love taping these. I couldn't wait to talk to you because there's so much stuff that we have to talk about, but I know we're not allowed to do that on this. Although maybe we could do it a little bit on this. We should probably do an intro for the conversation that
Oh,
the
yeah.
listeners are about to hear.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
More importantly, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm a little tired, but I'm okay.
Why are you tired? It's not like you really do anything. You're a trophy wife. You won Mega Millions.
I wish.
Basically are independently wealthy. You're a trust fund baby.
I wish. From your lips to God's ears. I think maybe in my next life. No, I worked overnight last night. I'm watching my grandson right now. Got to work again tonight.
Well, listen, Gertie, now that you're 855 years old, I love that you're a grandmother.
Thanks.
How many bottles of Prosecco have you taken to the beach so far yet this year?
None.
What?
It's not that I haven't had some alcohol at the beach, but no Prosecco at the beach.
That's
We're-
disgusting.
We prefer rum.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a rum season?
Oh yeah, summer is rum season.
I don't
We
know.
get this drink at the bar. There's a bar at my beach, and it's called Rum Therapy.
Of course it is.
And then my friend Chrissy has a portable blender.
Oh
So
my God. I love that.
so
I
we take
want to know if at Rum Therapy, instead of it listing prices, it lists co-pays.
it should. I actually was saying, can my insurance cover this? But
Good.
we bring fresh fruit and ice and booze, and we make up our own drinks
Oh my
with
God.
in the. But then we take a walk up to the bar too.
But
For
see,
like,
now, for the record, right? You're saying that she has a to-go blender,
yes,
if you will. All right.
yes.
Now, let's wrap this into our conversation that you're going to listen to today.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to meet a mom who lives in an Airstream
She
with
needs
her.
a tender.
Listen, I mean, so how big is an Airstream?
Well, some of them can be pretty big, but some are, not huge. I mean, I bet your apartment's bigger.
Oh, I would hope so. I
Yeah.
mean, I think her I don't know. I feel like in the conversation we had, I think we mentioned it. I have to go back and listen to that. But regardless, I think it's unbelievable that she basically was like, I'm going to give up everything. I'm going to give up all my spending. I'm going to give up everything. And we're going to move into a literal Airstream. She
That's
was so sweet, though. Her name was Kelsey. Seriously, you're going to love her. Like,
that,
she's a lot of fun.
that's gutsy.
It is gutsy. But then I asked like this question, and nothing, I'm not going to say that nothing ever gets edited out of the Twiniversity podcast, but it's very rare that things do. But you know how, well, you don't know this, but I'm going to give you behind the music. Sometimes I ask a question and I feel weird asking it.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I want to know the answer to this, but I don't know if I should ask. But I
Yeah.
asked about, is she worried about the kids not having developed relationships because of their life instability?
Hmm. Well, is this a forever plan, or is this, or do they move from site to site? Like, this is something I want to know.
They
Are they
move
just
from site to site. They move
oh,
from site and they go wherever, usually weather dependent,
wherever the wind takes them?
wherever the wind takes them. And then ultimately, her goal is for them to really live on a boat.
Wow. You
It's a
have
lot.
That's a lot.
I worry about the kids though. Like I know I am in no position to talk because I'm literally living in the same place that I have basically been born in,
Oh,
right?
me too.
So we're not movers. So for us, it's like foreign to be like,
Yeah.
let me get up and move away
Move
from
500
everybody.
miles away.
But
Like,
I thought I find it very intriguing. I don't know if I could have. I certainly couldn't have done that
no.
when kids were little. Because I even asked her about like health insurance. Right? Like,
Yeah.
what if something happens? How do you do this? But
An
she does kind
income,
of have
right?
like a home base, and she does get
Right.
mail someplace. She did tell me about
Yeah.
this virtual mailbox. Like all the mail goes to this one spot, and then they scan it so that she could get it no matter where she is. I mean, that I kind of want to do that now because I hate opening mail
Oh,
so
I get
much.
so much junk mail too.
Oh, just throw it all out. But it was a really, really interesting conversation. And I mean, I know I couldn't have done it. Like I could say, I don't know if I couldn't. I know it's fact that there is no way. I barely traveled when the kids were little.
I mean,
We didn't even go anywhere.
I had a camper and
Did.
there's no way I could have lived in that permanently.
But that was a nice camper, and I regret that I did not live in it permanently.
We
In
went
the
to the camp
driveway.
at the beach. That was the best. That was the best.
Where you sold it?
Yeah. We never
Oh,
used it. So
I know, but it
we
was
just
just in the
never did it
driveway.
again. Like I
I
could be driving around trailing, an Airstream behind me. I couldn't do it. I didn't have the confidence.
yeah, that's tough.
It's a lot to do that.
And they both work from Airstream. I guess we don't call it home instead of working from home. So they both have virtual jobs, and they have
Okay.
like really good internet, so they can go anywhere in the universe. But it was it was interesting, and the road of how she got there, I think you're gonna find
Yeah,
fascinating.
no, I can't wait to hear this.
I think about like your husband, how he could like where would he store his gallon of baseballs that he bought at the tag sale?
No, but you have to like have minimal stuff if you're living in something like that. Like super
You're gonna do
minimal.
this. I'm telling you right now, like for realsies, you're gonna be fascinated and you're also gonna be inspired. And you're like, now I have to go out. I have to go throw up
Another
15
camper.
bags of stuff. Like literally, as soon as you finish, you're like, okay, I should go conquer that junk drawer. Because right now, I've now determined my junk drawer in my kitchen has now turned into three.
Yeah, I have like three. And then I have a junk drawer upstairs.
What's wrong with us?
I'm like, why do I need all this junk? And every once in a while, I just want to like get rid of all of it. And then other days, I'm like, let me buy more crap.
What's wrong with
Like
us?
we have
What's
issues.
in your junk drawer? What's like if you have to say right now that
Depends
this junk
on
drawer is what's in there?
the main junk drawer, the original junk drawer has like pens and dry erase markers and scissors and tape and,
Hmm.
like paper clips. The other one has like the most random shit,
Hmm.
like chip clips and like, I know there is a Yoda cookie cutter
Of course.
thing in there. So that today, so I can make Yoda shaped cookies. Never done it, but I have them in there.
Good.
Um, I have uh like a little electric meat thermometer in there, like random stuff that doesn't fit into the other stuff or into my
Oh.
utensil drawer.
I have random things that I'm saving and I
Yeah,
don't know why.
yeah.
Most random item in my junk drawer at this time, I poop you not, is a swizzle stick
Ooh.
from my father's first wedding.
Aw, aw.
Not my mother.
Well,
That was his first wife.
you need to keep that for whatever.
I just think my mother actually gave it to me, and I was like, this is
Oh, like
hysterical.
I don't want this.
Yes. And I was like, you can't throw that out. That's from daddy's first wedding.
Now, there's times where Dan will go through stuff in my basement and it'll be the most random things. And he'll be like, I think we should get rid of this. I'm like, no, that was my dad's. And like, it's a book about like World War One that I'll never read.
Yes, of course.
But I'm like, no, we need to keep that.
See, now this weekend, I went to the lake and we're cleaning out the house.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, for those of you listening, it's a very long story, but the moral of the story is we have this house in our family for 50 plus years. And somehow, like, we're selling it because we don't go enough, but somehow it's fallen on me specifically to
Yeah.
clean the entire house out. So I am cleaning the whole house out. And so we went and we got all the stuff down from the attic. And I am now playing a game called Will the Kids Throw This Out When I Die? Because if I think my kids are going to throw it out, then I'm not going to save it.
Yeah, I've been slowly throwing shit out, and I think Dan is secretly throwing things out behind my back, which I'm okay with because I
Mm.
don't know about it. If I know about it, I'll be upset.
Which I feel like it's the pot calling the kettle black situation with that. If he's throwing your stuff out, is he throwing your dad's stuff
He's not throwing my stuff. It's like my parents' stuff that he's kind
out?
of
Okay.
weeding through. Certain things he's like, yeah, we don't need that. But certain things he knows. So like
Yeah.
I think slowly but surely. But then I go behind his back and throw out because his
Fair.
parents moved and gave us shit. And I'm like, I'm like, I don't need this box of random bullshit from high
No,
school.
we
Like,
certainly do not.
so I think we do it to each other, but still, we still have a huge house full of shit. Excuse me.
Yes. I just realized that. I'm gonna have to write down explicit now. Thanks to you.
Sorry.
Great. Was having a nice conversation about an Airstream and then we went off the rails. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's learn to live with less.
Less.
Let's take a page out of her book. Let's see how she did it. And
Yes.
let's learn from clearly the best
Purge. After I
because,
listen, I'm going to just purge everything.
okay. All right. Let's listen, then purge. Or
Okay.
maybe we purge while we listen.
Yes.
All right. So for those of you that are listening, wherever you are in the universe, if you're in your car, go through that center console.
Yes.
Use, as long as you're not driving, use this time to channel your inner, what is it called when you go to
Minimalist.
class? Minimalist. Thank you so much. Yes. All right. And so we all could channel our inner Kelsey too. Are you ready to meet her?
Yes.
All right. Here she is. Kelsey in her Airstream. Oh my God. Oh, Kelsey, thank you for understanding the chaos and welcome to the Twiniversity podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
So for the listeners out there, all six of you, understand that I thought I was coming into a lactation consultation. So if you guys don't know, I am in the process of pursuing my IBCLC. So I'm doing all of these free lactation kind of consultations. So like I was like, oh, and then Kelsey pops on and she's nicely organized. And usually when it's a lactation consultation, everybody's like a little bit of a mess because they have teeny tiny babies that won't latch. So I had to piece it all together. So Kelsey, I love you. Thank you so much for your patience. Oh,
Oh my gosh, anytime. Are you kidding me? I feel like that's one thing about like being a twin mom that I've realized is like all my expectations and things that I had, they all go out the window. And I think that's like been one of the best things about it because it just, it just helps you be more flexible with things going on. So I could care less.
oh my gosh. So now we found you because we are so riveted by you and your twinnies and your family and your lifestyle choice, as some people might call it, right? So where you are tiny living to the second power, where I have always felt like I've been tiny living in my 650 square foot apartment here in
Yeah.
New York City. So we got used to tiny living, but you're really tiny living. So tell
Yeah.
us about your lifestyle choice because there's people who are listening who cannot see, right? So tell us a little bit about how you chose to live a life as a nomad.
Totally. Yes. So I think it started off when I realized I was a really crazy shopaholic. I grew up, my dad, when I was 4, my dad got really sick. And so my whole life, my dad was sick. And so that was what we did. We went shopping, we went out on adventures to shop.
Yeah.
That was always, like Friday night would come around and he'd be like, "Do you want to go to the mall?" I'm like, "Yes, I do. Let's go to the mall." And so I just grew up shopping. And so I also carried that into marriage. And my husband loved to shop. And so we just realized we were these huge consumers. And then before we knew it, we're opening every single cupboard and it's full. And we're realizing, oh my gosh, we're in debt. What are we doing? And we were just consuming to the point that it was draining our finances. And then we realized, wait, I don't want to be doing this anymore. What am I doing? And so we had done IVF and stuff at that point too. So we had our kids. And I think that was like a awakening call for us being like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, we've got to change our lives. We have children now depending on us. So we completely turned ourselves around, stopped shopping, stopped doing all of
Wow.
that kind of stuff, got ourselves out of debt, saved up money, and made an awesome savings. So, I mean, we're currently living on the road right now, living off of our savings. So, I mean, within 5 years, we've gone from shopaholics to living in 240 square feet. So it's been a big, big change. I'm still finding I'm adjusting through some of those old habits and trying to create new habits.
Mhm.
And that's been a process, but I'm super grateful to be where we're at. So yeah, 240
Wow.
square feet, living in an Airstream, and we pick up every single week and travel to a new spot around the US.
Oh my gosh. So how old are the twinnies?
They are 4 years old. So they were 3 when we started on this. Well, they were 2 when we sold our home, and then we were nomadic for a year and a half living with my mom. trying to figure out, we actually want to live on a sailboat. That's our end goal, is to be
Okay.
out in the ocean sailing. But our big nest egg that we had for our sailboat, that all crashed when the stock markets crashed
Mm,
and stuff. So we were like, what can we do off of our savings and
yeah.
what we have now? And that was RV life. So here we are.
Holy smoke. So with the 4-year-olds, like, are you, so you move a lot, right? I have so many questions. My brain is
Yeah,
is
yeah.
scrambling. So what do we do first about school?
We are planning on doing homeschooling. So I've talked to a lot of moms that are already homeschooling to get
Mhm.
advice and things like that. And so I've just been trying to build this community of homeschool moms. So I have resources to reach out to. So when I do have questions, because we haven't started that. We're planning on starting in this fall doing like full blown homeschool with our kids. So right now we've just been focusing on the basics, like what you would kind of learn in, pre-K, your ABCs and numbers, and
Mhm.
focusing on reading and spending time outdoors is pretty much all we've been doing as of now.
That's exciting. So
Yeah,
yeah, so these, I think really anything below 4th grade, you could just skip. I feel
yeah,
like there's important stuff, but there's everything that we could teach. I think after that, it gets a little bit challenging, and then you're like, I have no idea what this means. So we
for sure.
need we need a different teacher. So is your plan to stay on the road and then eventually go to a sailboat, like when they hit a certain age, if you made the income for that, or are you really just taking it day by day?
I mean, ideally, we'd like to be on a sailboat within 5 years. And I think that also would be good for our kids being a little bit older and
Hmm.
safety on a boat and some of those logistics as well. But then there's also the dynamic that I want more kids. So we
Yeah.
might just have young kids in general when
Okay.
we do that. But yeah, so our game plan right now is to do RV life from 3 to 5 more years, because there
Okay.
is so much to see in the United States.
Yes.
It's crazy how much is there. And we're also planning on going up into Canada and Mexico eventually too. And so we want to make sure we have enough time that we don't rush ourselves through that we can
Hmm.
enjoy the process, but also get to see a lot.
Absolutely. Do you know where you're going next, or do you just know a few days before? Like, are you like, okay, we're going to go south, so we're going to stay on this path and we're just going to hit these cities along this route? Or are you like, okay, I want to be in Canada in 6 weeks? How do you determine what route you guys are going to take?
When we first started off, we were just kind of going by whatever was closest to us. And then we realized the weather really plays
Mm,
a part in things. And I mean, we should have known that, but you just kind of learn as you go sometimes when you're jumping into something. I grew up in Arizona where the weather is pretty consistent year round, or in Mesa, Arizona, where it's just pretty dry. And so I never really think to oh, let me check what the weather is today. And
mhm.
so we were in Texas over Christmas time, and I was thinking, oh, Texas, it's going to be warm. It was not warm.
Correct.
The
Correct. They get
area we were
snow.
in, yeah, it wasn't warm.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. So then we started going up to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and heading up, kind of up the coast, because we're like, we've got to make our way to Florida. Let's get to
mhm,
warmer waters. And as we were making our way there, we had just so much snow and rain. And luckily, our RV is really insulated. We have heaters, heat pumps. And so we were totally fine, but we weren't going out as much. And a lot of the things that we like to do were just limited. And so now we're realizing we travel with the weather. And
mhm.
so the weather actually is like the biggest determination of where we're going to be at a certain time. So right now we're heading up the East Coast, but we have a YouTube conference in Dallas that we're going to in September. And so in about a month or so, we're going to start cutting through. Um,
Mm.
so instead of heading up the East Coast, we're going to start cutting through back over to Texas territory so we can make it there in time.
Unbelievable. That's so exciting. Now, how did this even come up? I want it to be the flying on the wall when
Yeah.
you and your husband were discussing that this is something that we want to do. Was it your crazy harebrained idea or his crazy idea? Or is this something like when you first met each other and you were dating? And was this on your list of things to do? How did you even get here as a family?
Oh my gosh, you're so cute. So it all started honestly when COVID hit. I think walking into the stores and seeing all the shelves empty, it all of a sudden kind of sent me spiraling a little
Yeah.
bit. Where all of a sudden I was like, wait, what am I doing with my life? All of a sudden it just kind of put a lot of things in perspective for
Yeah.
me. And that night, a random YouTube video popped up of this family that was sailing on the ocean. And I thought,
Mhm.
wait, Arizona, like we're landlocked. There's not water around. And so that was just a whole new life. So I went down this rabbit hole. And that night I said to my husband, because our girls were, I think they're like 3 or 4 months at the time. And so they were napping while I'm like doing all of this.
Mhm.
And that night I said to my husband, I was like, so what's your feelings of like selling everything and living on a boat? And he was the sweetest. He like looked at me and he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, really. He's like, I'd totally be up for it. I was
Oh,
like, oh, okay, really? Like you'd really be up for it? He's like, yeah, do you want me to call our realtor and get the house up for sale? And I was like, yeah, yeah. But at that time we had $80,000 in debt. And so I was like, okay, let's look at the bigger picture.
mhm.
We've got to get out of debt. We have got to change this. So I mean, when you have a goal, it's crazy
Mhm.
what you can put your mind to. We'd been trying to
Absolutely.
get that debt paid off for years. We got it paid off in 6 months.
Wow.
So
Wow.
sometimes you just need that goal.
So now, did you sell a lot of the stuff that you were buying unnecessarily? Did the money come from the house? Where did the 80 come from? Because it's obviously
Yes.
just doesn't, there's not really leprechauns, is my understanding, that are leaving random pots of
Oh
gold
yeah.
throughout the country. So how did you get that
Right.
paid off?
So our biggest thing was like honing in our savings, like or like stop spending. That was
Mhm.
because we were spending more than we were making at that
Mhm.
point. So we completely went on like a spending freeze and stopped that. We started looking at everything we owned. We found it was like $12,000 that we had in ancestry.com stocks. We sold those. We started selling all of our clothes.
Good.
We started selling our handbags. I mean, anything that had somewhat of value. Poshmark became my best friend, Facebook
Good.
Marketplace. I was doing a ton of that. But at that point, we weren't selling off everything that we owned at that point because
Mhm.
we had our goal, but we knew that it wasn't going to be for a little bit that we were going to be doing that. So we were just trying to like really hone in on spending.
Okay.
But yeah, the biggest things we found ancestry stocks, that was I think 12 grand of it. And then we stopped spending. And so then we had money coming in. So
Mhm.
at that point, I think we were making about it was like 9 to 10,000 a month. That's before taxes. And
Mhm.
so we were saving a good like 5,000 a month was our goal.
Excellent.
And so yeah, and then anything we had in savings, because we also had a savings too. So we took our savings, paid off our debt
Mhm.
because we were like, this isn't doing us any good. We need to pay our debt off and then we can save.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
So you
yeah.
did this with like all on your own, no financial guidance from any professionals whatsoever?
I did Jordan Page's budget boot camp.
Okay.
So she is amazing. So she talks about having 7 different bank accounts. And to me, that was like mind blowing because
Mhm.
I've just lived off of like a checking and a savings
Yeah.
account. And whatever's in there, we end up spending. And so we started dividing our money up. And then I love it. She has like a slushy fund. So it's like your fun money. So I
Good.
put the name of our boat. We want to name our boat Bangarang because our last name's Bang. So I made a category that was like bangarang, and that was always empty for so long, but that
Okay.
was my goal to like start saving money for that. And then once we were out of debt, we sold our home. I think we had about 300,000 in our home that we ended up, that just goes to
Mhm.
savings or whatever that for
Yeah.
boat. And then we had also, crazy enough, within that 2 years, had saved up about 200K with my husband's stock that he had. We cashed some
Mhm.
out from a company. He was working at Cricut, the
Mhm.
scrapbooking laser cutting machine at the time.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So he had some stocks with them. So we had about 200 there, and then we just had some other savings too. So
Unbelievable. So now you're what about the week before you did this? Did you have any like, I don't know if I could live without this? You know, they're always like Marie Kondo, does this bring you joy, right? How
Yeah.
did you decide what you were going to bring into the 250 square feet, right? Because then you have the needs and then you have the wants, but there's still
Yeah.
stuff that you're going to want that are kind of creature comforts that you don't want to have no creature comforts. So how did
Mhm.
you decide which ones of your creature comforts you were going to take on that were kind of like unnecessary, but you knew you had to have them?
Yeah. Well, so the thing that's interesting is when we started selling or like selling our stuff or getting rid of them, I used to collect handbags. Handbags and shoes were like I loved. And so I had this whole collection of Disney handbags and I was like, you know what? This is the one thing I'm going to hang on to. I do not want to let these go. We're just going to put them in storage. And as soon as I let one go, I literally could let all the rest go.
Mm,
And so I realized it is funny because looking back, because it's been a few years now, I don't miss any of them. I don't miss any of it.
yeah.
And so we had gotten rid of all of our stuff, but then were thinking we're going to go on a boat. So most of the stuff I saved for was for like boat life. I was
Mhm.
thinking like I saved our life jackets because we used to live on the lake where we could go paddleboarding. So I'm like, we need our life jackets. That's a great thing, you know. So I kept some things like that. So when we actually moved into the RV, I pretty much bought all new stuff because also everything didn't fit in here. Like my
Yeah,
pots
I
and
could
pans
imagine.
that I had before, they don't work for an RV. I literally have a small drawer that can fit, you know, two pots and pans.
Oh my
So
gosh.
I pretty much just bought all new things here. So that was like also a reminder to myself as well that when I'm going into a new space, let go of all the things I had before and
Mhm.
create space for new things and just let the rest go.
Yeah.
That's kind of my takeaway from it all.
Yeah, you really don't need much. I mean, it's so funny because I talk to so many expectant families that are having 20s and they're like, oh, we need this, we need this. I'm like, no, you don't. Remember that the odds of your grandparents were
Yeah.
sleeping in a drawer
Oh
is
yeah.
very high, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like we just got to be safe. We have to have the safe stuff and that's it. There are so many things you think you need that you
Right.
clearly don't. Right. And
Oh
so
my gosh.
living,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
certainly I'm not in the 250 square feet, but like we can't have a lot of stuff here in New York City and we
Mm,
never could. So you like as a kid, I learned that like I could only have these many toys because there wasn't an unlimited amount. How
yeah.
are the Twinnies dealing with that? Right? Because it's like if they want stuff, even like pet rocks and stuff, how do you
Hmm.
not let everything that they want build up and kind of take over the Airstream?
Yeah, that is one thing we are trying to navigate that's been tricky because I have both sides of me where I am that shopaholic. Like when you're talking about when the babies are first born, I mean, I was on the high crazy end spectrum of things. Like we had 6 DACA tops. That's not normal. Our home was 3 stories. It wasn't a huge home. It was 3,400 square feet, but it was 3 stories. And so we had DACA tops on every level of the home. We had snoo bassinets upstairs. We had other bassinets on the main floor. We just had the consumption was insane. And I
Yeah.
just felt like in those moments I was so desperate and I needed all of those things and it would make my life better for even if it was a few minutes, it was worth it.
Yeah.
And so now I'm trying to, as we purchase things, as we're doing things, I'm trying to realize, is this going to make my life better for a few months or is this going to make my life better for the long term?
Yeah.
And even if that's making sure that we have that money to save for our kids' future or save for our family's future. So with our kids, when we're buying things, the thing that's helped us the most is give our 4-year-olds allowance.
Good.
Which sounds crazy, but when we're in gift shops constantly all the time, we it's just easier for us to give them allowance. So we give them $1 a day, which isn't anything crazy, but it's something that they can see
Hmm.
that it's tangible, that hopefully they can learn the value of money and have a little bit of experience with it. So that's pretty much how we do it. So anytime we're at gift shops or things like that, if they want something, I'll say, "Hey, if you have the money, you are totally welcome to get it."
Oh, So
So
what's going to happen when the time comes that they start pooling their money for giant things that don't fit in the Airstream? Brum, brum,
yeah.
brum.
Yeah, that's going to be the tricky one because there really is not much space, but
Yeah.
they've gotten good at, "Hey, if you bring something in, is there something that we can say goodbye to?" I try not to do that too much because I just don't want them to feel like their childhood is constantly like, you get something, you have to say goodbye
Yes.
to something. I really want to make sure that there's a balance there and that I'm not pushing anything on them,
Yeah.
because I know as a kid, like I mean, Beanie Babies, that was everything. I collected those. I loved my Beanie Babies, and I would have been devastated if I had to get rid of my Beanie Baby collection. So I want to be respectful, and so we're still trying to find that balance. Luckily, they haven't had like anything too crazy, but we do
Yeah.
have a few big stuffed animals. They love stuffed animals, so. Yeah, we haven't had that problem yet, but I know we'll face it. So I need to come up with a game plan.
Yeah. That's going to be a fun one. Keep us posted on that.
Yeah,
I'm dying to
yeah.
know. Now, the hard question is if the stuff is, of course, just stuff, but how are
Mhm.
you dealing with like leaving family? Right? Do
Mm,
you have a bunch of brothers and sisters and do they have cousins? And I'm sure that it is not taken lightly by the grandparents that this
mhm.
is the lifestyle choice that you're making. How did you grow up? Right?
Mhm.
Having that kind of family connection in
Right.
relation to how your kids are now going to grow up. And how do you make it so that they don't feel like they're missing their
Mhm.
family?
Yeah. So family is huge to us. I love my family. So I have four older sisters and then my parents. My dad died 7 years ago, but my mom recently got remarried, which has been so fun because now my kids have a grandpa on my side, which has been super special. And so we were actually living with my mom when she met Danny, when she met her husband now. And
Mhm.
so we got to see that whole dating process. So that was super tough to leave them. And then on my husband's side, he has three brothers, and his parents lived right by us where we lived before we sold our home. And his parents actually came over every week and watched our girls.
Oh,
So she would come over for an entire day, like literally from like 9 to 5, and come watch the kids so I could take a nap, take a shower, do
mm,
groceries, work, whatever.
that's nice.
So we've been lucky to have a lot of family help, and that was such a hard decision to be like, oh my gosh, do we actually want to like leave this where we are 100% on our own
Mhm.
and we are responsible for,
Yeah.
our kids' well-being, education, all of these dynamics. So that was really tough to leave. But one thing we've realized is we're mobile. We can actually see family more now than we have. Like, I mean, we're going to go see Jake's grandma, and I don't
Mhm.
know if we necessarily would have. I would like to say we would have taken the money to go fly out and go see her,
Mhm.
but when time paid off, when your time off is very limited, a lot of times, it's usually you're going to whatever family's closest and who can all come gather in
Yeah.
our situation. And so I'm grateful because we've been able to see family that we might not necessarily get to see as often.
Mhm.
And we get to see family more. Like for Christmas, we're going to go spend 2 months with my mom.
Good.
So,
Excellent.
yeah, so that's been fun. And then I have a sister that lives in Texas. We're spending a month with her in September. So that's the fun part is like we get to see more of family in some
Yeah.
ways than we would have.
But
So,
then I'm going to ask a hard question.
yeah.
So, is it with your kids and their cousins and being close, aren't they really going to miss them when they're traveling? Like think about that, right? And so this is it. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, we could
Yeah.
cut all of this out too if you don't want to answer this question.
Oh no,
But
I want to hear it.
like
Let's do it.
I genuinely am like, for the record, I live in a very obscene situation. So I live in the building that I'm sitting on right now. My whole family lives with me. So we are like psychotically close. And when
Yeah.
we travel as a herd. Why? I don't know how this started. I don't know why we do this, but we have been, and we have been doing this now for like 4 generations.
That's
And
so
there's
special.
there it is, but it's also like somebody should cut the cord at some point, but it's not going to be me. It's not, that's it. Because I realize that my kids are able to have bonds with like my mom, and
Mhm.
she brings things to the table that I would never be able to teach my kids. Right. There's
Yeah,
definitely things that
sure.
like a senior citizen is going to teach your kid that has like, I'm, 17 steps ahead of where my body is physically now. Are you
Mhm.
worried that they're not going to be able to have those kinds of relationships with their cousins and their grandparents and friends and school? And this would be just like for a general homeschool situation. Like there's
Yeah.
definitely, to me, I could see as an adult, I could see the benefit of moving from place to place. But
Mhm.
I don't know how that is as a kid. Like, did you move around a lot as a kid? And of course, by the way, it's not a judgy
Yeah.
thing because we
Oh,
have
oh, I know. Yeah.
plenty of Twiniversity families who are military families that always moved
Yeah.
from one place to the next. But they always, like a lot of the times that when we speak to moms that were military families, it's one of the things that they regret is not being able to develop those really close, like long-term relationships. But
Mhm.
that's, of course, them looking back as kids, but they're not the ones that are making the decisions because, right, we
Yeah.
pay the bills. They got to do what we say. This is what we're going to do. Do you
Yeah.
ever think about how your lifestyle is going to impact the kids in
Oh,
both a positive and
100%.
negative way? And how, but what could you do about it? Because I'm sure if anybody's done the work on this, it's you. So how do you fill in that gap with that kind of the security of like permanent relationships and not having to give stuff up? How do you guys balance that for them?
Yeah, I think it's something that's going to be needing to be adjusted throughout this journey because I think as the kids get older and their wants and desires change,
Mhm.
that's going to change for us. And so I think it's being an open parent and having those dialogues and having those conversations and
Yeah.
making the kids part of those decisions. Because when we decided we wanted to live a more nomadic lifestyle, it's not something we took lightly. It wasn't something
Yeah.
like, oh, hey, let's just do this because it's a dream. Every concern in the book ran through my head. Are our kids going to have friends? How are they going to have those deep relationships? And I'm someone who's had a best friend since I was 18 months old.
Yeah.
I still talk to her on the regular. And so it's funny, her kids are actually really good friends with my kids because we
Mhm.
see them, we make an effort to make sure we see them. So we've just kind of gone with the role of taking on the responsibility as parents that it's my job to facilitate those relationships and for them to have those. Obviously, I want my kids to naturally form them and I'm not trying to
Mhm.
push them, but it's my job to facilitate the opportunities for them to have that.
Yeah.
So that's why we stay at grandma's house for 2 months because all of our family's there. So our kids get to see that family for 2 months out of the
Mhm.
time when everyone's off of work and they
Yeah.
have vacation time. And we also have other bases too. Orlando, Florida is one of our home bases that we have a really great community there. Something as well is we are Christian and we love our church. And so that's created an amazing community for
Beautiful.
us being out on the road because every Sunday, our kids are having the same lessons. They're having the same experiences. They're singing the same songs at church. It might be with different people,
True. True.
but
True.
they're having an experience with people that they feel in a safe environment with
Mhm.
because it feels routine for them. And so the cool thing through that is we have made so many friends. I can't tell you. I'm actually having to learn to say no on this journey because I'm not joking. We get invited over to come over to people's house for dinner once to twice a week.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so I have just been so grateful because there are so many people out there that are looking for a community, they're looking
Yep.
for friends, they're looking for family. And so all of those people that we've met and had dinner with and have had time with, they are
Mhm.
constantly messaging us, FaceTiming us. How are the kids? How are
That's
this? And
great.
and so our relationships look very different now than they
Mhm.
would in a traditional home staying in one spot, but there still are relationships. And so I think it's just, our kids might not have that best friend growing up, but they will have those friends to return to every
Mhm.
few months when we go back to that spot. And I'm also really grateful our kids have each other, to be
Yeah.
honest, you
I mean,
know?
seriously, I mean, that's like the obvious, the elephant in the room is thank
Yeah,
goodness they have each other. And the fact
yeah,
that you want to have more is even more exciting, right?
yeah,
Because the thing is then you just get to have like a bigger home base. And then
yeah,
I find that families that have like larger families, they're they're all about their family and your best
yeah.
friends are in your family. So to
Mhm.
have more of a choice, right? If you have like one sibling, you're like, "Bah, I can't stand this person. Bah, I guess I'm lost." But when you
Yeah,
have, 4 or 5 brothers or sisters, you get to choose which one that you want to play with the most. Now, speaking of
totally.
families, you said that your twinnies were IVF babies,
Yes, yeah,
right?
they
And
are.
so now if you choose to have more, are you going to have to go that route again, or do we know kind of what's happening?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, how do you live someplace long enough? Because we all know
Mhm.
as an IVF mom, that is a process and a half.
Oh my gosh, right, isn't it? It's such a I'm so grateful for the process, but it's still so unknown in a lot of ways, of is it gonna work and all of those logistics. So we for sure need to do IVF again. I mean, I'm assuming it's been, 4.5 years since we've had our kids and we haven't been using protection. So
Mhm. The odds are
that might be
yes.
TMI,
Yes.
but but I'm like, I'm assuming that, because we've been not trying, but we've been just
Not
making
not
sure
trying.
not
Yes.
trying. Yeah, we've
Yes.
been making sure that every time it's that possibility time with the last year.
Yeah.
So we for sure need to do IVF again. So we actually met with our doctor because I actually want to go for twins again. I
Okay.
love having twins. I just feel like it's a very just special, unique calling. I feel so grateful to be a twin mom. Like I dreamed about it as a kid of being like,
Aw.
that'd be so fun to have twins. And then I'm like, what? I get this opportunity to be a twin mom? Are you
Oh,
kidding
you're
me?
so good. Oh,
So,
Kelsey, you're so sweet.
oh my gosh, you're so nice. And don't get me wrong, it's tough. It is hard. It is exhausting. But that's being a parent in general, that
Truth.
it's a tough gig. But that's also what makes it so
Yeah.
rewarding.
Listen, you will always hear, I have said a million times that the best people to have twins are twin parents. Like that's
Mhm.
it. Like once you do it once, and I don't really think that people realize how common it is
Mm.
that twin
Yeah.
parents have a second set and a third set. I think we have
Mhm.
one family right now that has a fourth set, but
Oh,
that's a
oh
different
my
kind of
goodness.
vehicle. Yeah, you're
They're
going into some
saints.
interesting, there's a different type of territory. But so how are you going to manage going through IVF again? Like, I guess you don't have to do too much specifically with a doctor. You could go to any Quest diagnostic, let's say for blood work or whatnot. So
Yeah.
how do
Yeah.
you anticipate this round going?
So I was trying to talk to my doctor to get some ideas on like logistics and things like that. And so we have 5 frozen embryos, and those are in Utah and Pleasant Grove. So we would need to go see our doctor there for the transfer
Hmm.
and all of that. I actually met another family who travels full time in an RV. That's a fun thing. It's like 5 o'clock hits in the RV park and everyone's out playing. And
Oh,
so it's like you just have instant friends everywhere. It's so fun. So we met another family that way, and she had a baby that was just a few months old. And so I was like, did you have to like stay at one place forever? And she was like, I actually found a doctor that did all of my appointments remotely. So she
yeah.
would just go and check in wherever they were at, get blood work done or whatever she needed to
Hmm.
do for the appointment, and then would check in with her doctor. So I the thing with twins though is I would be considered a geriatric high risk pregnancy.
Hmm.
So that's going to change things, but I'm not opposed to staying somewhere for 6 months
Hmm.
and just having fun and enjoying that place, and
Yeah.
and is picking a spot for a while to kind of nest or do whatever we needed to.
That's so exciting. So now how would the baby fit or the babies fit into the Airstream? Is it something that you're going to be like, okay, let's see what happens, and then we're going to figure if we're going to upsize, or
Yeah,
are
we
you
would get a
just going
new
to take,
rig.
so you would, okay. I
Yeah,
wasn't
for
sure.
sure,
All right.
for sure. Yeah, we're actually thinking we might by fall time, I think we'll get a new rig. So our first thing is we just didn't know if we were gonna like RV life. And so we wanted to get a rig that we loved, but also something that would be easy to learn the ropes on.
Yeah.
And so Airstream, they're known for being reliable and quality. And it was the easiest rig to learn on. It's been amazing. Like I love I love our Airstream. It's so cute and fun. But as our kids start, I know with doing school and things like that, I want more room to play on the floor. I want more table space for arts and crafts and activities. Um, we're able to make do with what we have now, but I just think with school starting and stuff, we'll probably upgrade. So I will want to find a rig at that point that we could have some room for bassinets or things like that for when we do have hopefully more babies.
So now the Airstream is a vessel that's pulled by
Correct.
a
Yes.
real vehicle. So now would you upgrade to something like that that still gets pulled, or to something that we're gonna drive in, like those
Yeah, like
monster
those fun
RVs with
Class
the bump
A's.
outs and all that
Yeah,
jazz?
yeah, those are so much fun. So we've gone back and forth on what we'd like to do between like the classic kind of motorhome type of thing where you drive it, or doing the tow, like a big fifth wheel that attaches to the back of the truck. We've gone back and forth. Right now, we're looking at a fifth wheel option just because I like the layout and the floor plan. So I thought it probably will depend on the floor plan, to be honest with you.
That's
And then
exciting.
we'll adjust on there. So yeah, we'll
So
probably go off of that.
So how do you how does taxes work and things like that? Because you're virtual workers. And
Yeah.
then do you have a home address?
Yeah, so we actually have something called a traveling mailbox, and it's just literally for nomad families or people or workers or whatever. I mean, people can use it for something else besides that, but they get our mail for us. So we have like a address. They get our mail for us and scan it whenever it comes in.
Wow.
And so we get all of our mail because a lot of times, like we're going through different places that have different toll roads and they do it by plate, by your license plate. And so we don't, but luckily we will get those bills. So because they'll get there and they'll get scanned, and so we have just everything registered to that address. But
Okay.
we consider my mom's home kind of our home base because
Okay.
we have a storage unit right around the corner from her house. And that's kind of just where we head, because my husband's parents, when we decided to move, they ended up moving as well. They still have their home, but they left on a long trip. They're in India right now. So
Oh,
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. Fun, huh?
So so that's the mail. How does health insurance work?
Health insurance, we're actually in the process of getting a new health insurance because so my husband actually just recently quit his job like 2 months ago. So he worked full time for a company called Treasure. It was a Web3 based company and he loved it and it was so awesome. But yeah, literally one night he woke me up in the middle of the night and he's like, Kelsey, I quit my job.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, okay, all
Oh,
right, let's
all
figure this
right.
out.
Okay. Can handle
We're
it.
here, let's do it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So you'll just get health insurance from the marketplace, or
So we've been trying to get it through the government right now, but it's literally been 2.5 months and it's not getting anywhere.
yeah,
So we'll probably just sign on with whatever we can get the best rate for
yeah.
personal insurance type of thing.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I was like, I know that I could travel with my health
yeah.
insurance, but I could only travel a certain amount of days or whatever. I have to be in
Uh-huh.
my home base for 6 months or whatever. So yeah. And I think about as the kiddos get bigger, I was
Mhm.
in the ER all the time. I mean, I just have a very accident sick kids. My tweens were, I don't even know. I like the thought of even traveling with the twinnies when they were little at that age is so foreign to me because my kids were always sick, always sick.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
right.
well,
Yeah.
listen, when you live in
Too.
a city with 9 million of your closest friends like that,
Yeah.
it's, we kind of get everything, every virus, that's up to us.
Oh, I'm
So,
so sorry.
so
That's
now
rough.
do you have to find a health insurance plan that's accepted nationwide, or is it still going to be based where your mom is?
Yeah, I will need to find something that's nationwide. So luckily our insurance right now still covers over for a while.
Mhm.
My husband's job insurance that he had, it still covers us for a while. So we haven't been like diving into it.
Yeah.
But I did hear someone was telling me about there's kind of like a nomadic insurance out there
Yes.
these days
I
that's
think
for
it's
like,
through freelancers, like the freelancers
okay.
union or something like that. Like I heard about that too, but I don't actually know how it works.
Yeah, me either. So that's something I need to look into because I think that could be a really great option for our situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
especially if you're going to go on a boat, then you have to find something that's internationally kind of
Yes.
accepted as well, ish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not everything translates over to the other sides of the water, but still, but it's so exciting. I am actually really, 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 one of my dreams is always to just kind of buy an Airstream and just go. But my husband is like, you're crazy. You're never going to do it. But I think that everybody's just underestimating me, right? Because with
Oh, yeah.
Twiniversity, I could work anywhere. Nobody knows where I really am. So I could have
Yeah.
been in another country this whole time. No
I
one
know,
would
you're
ever
really
know.
good.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about having internet. So we just use Starlink. We got one mounted on top of our rig and it's been the best. The only time it doesn't work is if there's like trees and stuff
Mm,
around. And then,
yes.
but luckily most RV spots have Wi-Fi on them. So we're able to like hook up and stuff that way. But yeah, it's definitely totally possible. I feel like ever since COVID hit, I mean, there were possibilities of like remote work before, but
Hmm.
now it's just a lot more accepted
Oh, yeah.
and it's just awesome. The
Oh, yeah.
possibilities are endless.
It's unbelievable. We've always been all like the whole Twiniversity team has always been all remote. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't even attempt to find somebody in New York City because I just honestly, it's too expensive here, as crazy as it is. So it's better. I
Yeah.
could find people in other parts of the country that could like don't eat up our Twiniversity budget and we could help the programs and stuff grow.
Hmm.
So that was always an important thing for me. Plus, I genuinely like having team members in every time zone. Like I
Hmm.
love that. I love having somebody online pretty much all the time in case somebody puts up the bat signal that they need
Yeah,
support in no man's land. So like it's
totally.
great. But yeah, I love me being a virtual. I don't even know if I had to work in a real place what I would do anymore. So now
Right.
how would you ever go back to real life? Because this is so
Yeah.
like wonderful and free and you have to have this sense of of just genuine freedom.
Yeah.
How do you ever say like, "Oh my God, I can never go back"?
You know, there's parts of me that miss some comforts from regular life, or not necessarily miss, but there's parts that enjoy some of those comforts, you know? So I could see, I'm kind of one of those people that like, if I'm in a situation, I'm just going to enjoy it and not look back type of
Mhm.
thing. So like we've moved several times to different homes and every time I was thinking, "Oh my gosh, it's going to be devastating leaving our home and all of our friends." But once I did it and jumped in and immersed myself with where I'm
Yeah,
at, I'm okay because I know I can go visit those friends. I can go do those things.
yeah,
So I think with RV life or something like that, I think I could easily jump back into something, but like in a work kind of situation, I feel like that's what I would really have a hard time because I love going out every single day. Like when we're at a place, like I will spend an afternoon planning out our week because I want to make sure we can get all the fun activities in. I just don't want to miss anything.
mhm,
And so I think I would really miss that part. But like with work and stuff, I yeah, I don't know if I could ever do a traditional
yeah,
job type of thing again. I mean, if I needed to, I would make it work and I would do it, but it would be hard to go back to like a office because it's nice being able to just work on our own schedules. Like I wake up at 5 in the morning
yeah,
and my husband does too, and we have 4 hours usually before the kids wake up that we work and have that time. And then we're both with the kids for breakfast, and then one of us takes the kids out, and then we switch off at bedtime. And so I feel like I would really miss a lot of that flexibility,
yeah.
but doesn't mean we couldn't have that somewhere else too, though. We just have to adjust, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, it's a lot more effort to do that. It's when you live so close, right?
Mhm.
There's like, I actually love the idea of living in 250 square feet. I think that there's a lot of things that can't be hidden, and there's things that
Yeah.
often could be swept under a rug that you could do in a
Mhm.
larger house, and you certainly
Mhm.
can't do it in small spaces.
Yeah.
So how does it work when like the kids are fighting, or when you're fighting with your husband, or you've just literally are touched out and you can't be near anybody? How does it work to have some personal space?
Yeah. So the bathroom is pretty much in our what like my place that I will like go and hide. Our car is another spot where I'll just hop out and go in the car, or I'll just hop out and take my camping chair and go out front or things like that. If I ever need like a breather or things like that. With our
Mhm.
kids, if they're ever getting it, I'm just so proud of them. They really do really good together. Ever since they were little, if they were ever kind of like getting into it, I remember I used to like jump in right away and try and like solve it, and then I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
They need to figure this out. Like, let them figure out these dynamics. So I would just kind of wait patiently on the sides, and I would just say, hey, I know you two got this. If you need help figuring it out, let me
Yeah.
know. And I would just let them figure it out. So now I feel like they do a really good job, you know, kind of taking it like our cute little girls. It was so funny the other day. My little girl Davy got really upset, and she's like, "Mom, I am just so angry. I need a minute." And she went
Oh,
in her she went in her room and went and sat down. And then like 10 minutes later, she came out and she's like, "I'm feeling better, Mom." I was like, "Okay, great."
oh,
So, they're just learning their own coping skills
yeah.
and, figuring it out. But if there's ever like a brawl or, the kids are just getting into it, I'll just say, hey, how about we just have some time to ourselves right now? Scout, you come over here. Davy, you come over here. Let's do our own thing for a little bit. So just kind of creating different spaces within the space we have. That's pretty much it. Or like if I'm mad at my husband or like we've gotten in a fight or something, I it's hard because we are in this tight space, so I feel like I'm like, oh, I need to be better because the example I'm saying and the words I'm saying my children can hear too. Where normally
Absolutely.
I can
Mm.
shut the door and be frustrated. So in some ways it's better because it keeps me kinder and but I'm sure my kids hear some things that they probably probably shouldn't where I'm frustrated, but yeah, like if I ever get frustrated or things like that, there's been times where I've just been like at nighttime or something, I've been
Yeah.
frustrated. I'm like, I'm just gonna take a minute, and we have this kind of couch out here that I'll just come sit on for a minute and just take a breather because there's
Good.
nowhere else to go in our room. There's not like another chair or anything. And so I'll just take a minute and come back.
And so is the Airstream divided, like the kids have the front and you guys have the back, or are they literally
Mhm.
on top of you? What is the layout?
So our most Airstreams don't have bunk beds, but that is why we picked this model because it's an Airstream bunk house model. So there's a queen size bunk bed in the back, and then there's also it's smaller than a twin on the top.
Mhm.
It's kind of a makeshift twin size bed on the top, but our girls actually like to sleep together, so they sleep in the bed on the
Perfect.
bottom. But my biggest thing was I wanted every person to have their own space
Mhm.
regardless of how small it would be. I wanted them to have their own bed, their own space that they could go to whenever they needed a moment or they needed a breather or anything like that. So I just wanted everyone to feel like they had their own spot in the home that was just theirs. So
Is
down
there
bed.
ever times where the kiddos are without you? Like, have you put them into local art classes or anything like that? Do you use your local resources?
Yes, you betcha. So that is one thing that we have really tried to dive into it because I really value community and our kids being able to meet other people and learn from
Hmm.
those other experiences. So like for instance, we're going to Holly, North Carolina next, and we're staying at this cute place on the beach, and they have summer kid camps. So I mean, I probably normally would sign my kids up for maybe one or two. I signed them up for every one that was available,
Good.
'cause I'm like,
Good.
if you get summer kid camps the entire month, we're there. So
Excellent.
yeah, so that's only 3 hours a day, which is great, but they get to learn about marine life. They have different activities for every day, like one day
Oh, that's
shark day, one
exciting.
day's manatee day, one day's urchin
Oh,
day. they just have different sea life aquarium activities because it's on the beach. And so there'll be 3 hours every day for the next month that my husband and I will get some time together,
Oh
which is
my
been a
gosh.
while.
Oh, I'm so excited for you. Just to literally, oh, that's so
I'm
great.
excited too.
I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait for the 20s were old enough to like do things and I wasn't sure if we should. But I remember like the first time that we took them, I actually, for like the first week, I just sat outside the place because I didn't know how to handle myself. I just went crazy. It's actually when I got my nose ring, truthfully, was the week that they started
Oh,
like little mini camp or what. I was like, I don't know what
yes.
to do. I was like, I
Oh,
don't know what I'm waiting for. I always wanted to do it. So yeah, it's very funny. But once you learn to let go and be like, they're okay and they're having their own experiences and
mhm,
they'll have more to talk about when they get home tonight. So it's so
totally.
exciting. Oh, that's such a great
It
time of
is.
year
It
too.
is. It's definitely nerve-wracking too. I mean, like depending on the situation, like we were in Orlando and we met the cutest girl ever. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I would love to babysit your kids." I'm like, "Okay, sounds great." Like, and we checked her
Yes.
out and she was awesome. And so, but I just remember like I mean, when I get anxious, this TMI once again, I get diarrhea. I just get like all the feelings, like everything's wanting to
Yes.
run through me, you know? And I remember like driving to her house, I'm like, it's gonna be okay, right? It's gonna be okay, right? Like it is like letting those feelings go, but it's like, yes, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be
Yeah,
fine. This is good for everyone. We all need a little bit of time. So yeah,
absolutely.
it's great to
Absolutely.
find those things. But yeah, it's crazy how many different kinds of activities we've been able to find. We've been at nature school. Our kids did skateboarding school for 6 months. Yeah, that was so fun. Our little 3-year-old skateboarding. They were
Oh,
amazing. Yeah, our girls could drop in the
wow.
in the bowl at 4 years old. So that was pretty cool.
Unbelievable. Well, this is just kind of beginning-ish for you. You could technically be
Yeah.
doing this for the next 40 years or plus. I am so excited for you. I am so jealous. I really have to say, like, it's always living vicariously through people. And we have you as our magnificent kind of twin ambassador on the road. We do have another twin family that does live on a sailboat that we got to speak to her too. So
Oh,
yeah,
I have
it's
to connect with
oh,
her.
you definitely 100%. Yeah. And she just kept having more too. So it's really, really interesting. Even just learning about how she uses diapers. Like it was just funny.
Yeah.
Like it's unbelievable. But I love all the different types of families that are out there. And I'm
Mm.
so excited that you're representing our twinnies on the road. So please, yeah, show people
Oh.
that we're not all to be feared, that actually we can be somewhat organized and fun and not all angry all the time. So
Right.
yeah, I'm so seriously, Kelsey, thank you so much. And I know that this time you could have been just sitting on the couch alone and feel free to just tell your family that this went on for another 3 hours and
Oh my
don't tell
god.
them that this is over. Nobody needs to know. But
You're so
thank you so,
cute.
so, so much for taking time to talk to us because I mean, it's kind of like living in a fishbowl as it is with everything that you
Yeah.
have on social. So that's
Yeah.
a little tough, but you always want like the behind the music, like, are they really as amazing as they seem? And I'm just so excited that you did this. And thank you for even dealing with my little stupidity in the
Oh
beginning.
my
And
gosh, are
you're
you
great.
kidding me? I've been there myself. I am so grateful to be on here. Thanks so much for letting me and being part of it. And yeah, if anyone has any more questions or anything, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer whatever. But yeah, I just say if there's a dream in your life, go for it. And your family will adjust and do great. And you can figure out the kinks as you go along the way.
Yeah, that's it. And you're always good as long as you have each other. And
Yeah.
that you definitely, definitely do. So that's amazing. Thank you so much. And guys, we're going to drop all the links below. So don't get nervous. You could stalk Kelsey just like we've been doing for months. So you guys could do it too. It'll all be in the show notes or YouTube, wherever you're watching this. But if you have any questions, you could reach out to her directly, but you could also email us at community@twiniversity.com. We'll stalk her too because of her virtual mailbox, whatever that is. I'm fascinated. I kind of want to do that now as it is because I hate opening mail. Like you can, that's one of the things I hate absolutely doing. But I am so excited. And yeah, one of the sayings that like I've always lived by, hence the now doing an IBCLC thing at 47 is it's only too late if you don't start now.
For
And
sure.
that's it. Like,
Yep.
what the heck are we waiting for? Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? So get out there, do your best. And if you need anything, drop a DM, drop into our DMs on every social. We're just at Twiniversity. And until next time, guys, see you later, alligators. And thank you so, so much for listening.
Aw.